Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump on and talk about New York for a second and the implications, like the greater implications of what we see coming out of New York in combination with the terrible decisions that came out of the Supreme Court today. I think I'm going to have to do like a separate, like actual video that can be edited by my team. We'll most likely end up putting it on the official side to talk about how bad these Supreme Court decisions are and exactly like what all they meant. Anything from like pornography to, the birthright citizenship decision that wasn't really about birthright citizenship, but it kind of sort of was. It was more so about Donald Trump and him continuing to kind of pull in more power than our founders ever anticipated an executor having. But I am super tired. It's been a long week. We did finally get briefed this morning. We finally had our security briefing. That's all I can really say. Seems like we were learning a lot from the news. I'll just say it that way. But nevertheless, so we did do that first thing this morning. We cast one vote, and right now we're technically on call. So we are supposed to be home as we go into the 4th of July holiday. And now I don't know if we're actually going to go home and come back, or what exactly we're doing, because everything in this administration is nothing but chaos. So let me talk about New York. And then I'm going to talk about why it is that I have no idea of where I'm going to be. Number one, there are people that are rewarded for their bad behavior. And that is because there are such hateful losers in this country. So I've been very frustrated about some of the things. I'm not going to say the member's name because I feel like he's trying to get internet famous, and he's trying to stoke all of those hateful groups, the same hateful groups that put Donald Trump into office. So I don't like to platform people. That's just a me thing. My platform is bigger than his, so I don't want to give him any oxygen. But I do want to be clear that we are supposed to live in the land of the free. That means freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and freedom in so many other ways in which they're being challenged every single day nowadays. But I don't really care how you feel about who won in New York. Like, it is what it is. The people have made up their minds. So now to go and to then not talk about policy, but to then attack this man who did what they did not think he could do, which is the big issue, right? He did what they didn't think he could do. And honestly, a lot of times it's good to be underestimated, because then that is when you are able to really take advantage. But like, the people have spoken. It's just like, I hate the fact that Donald Trump became president. Lord knows, do y'all see? Like, I am still in mourning, right? Like, because this country would not be turned upside down if people had done right. But at the end of the day, people voted for him. Whether it was an informed decision or not, they voted for him. And to then start attacking this man and talking about deporting him and denaturalizing him and all this nonsense, like, it just has to stop. Like, seriously, like, the hate for this man because he's Muslim or whatever your issues are, like, if you have an issue with a candidate, then it is time for you to actually do some work. Not to spew hate that is going to continue to pour into this issue that we have in this country around violence. Like, we just saw images of President Joe Biden, who went to Minnesota for the funeral of the former Speaker of the House as she was assassinated alongside her husband. So, they like to be like, oh, we victims and this and that, but you really are putting the hate out there. And you also are gaslighting people into this idea of, oh, no, we're not haters, we're Christians. No, you're not. At least whatever kind of Christian you are is not the kind that I'm familiar with. Like, you got a whole new level of Christianity. So, I mean, what I would ask of all of you is, as you see like these ugly negative things that are being said because of somebody's race or sex or religion, like, it is time for all of us to speak out and start like shutting that stuff down, because unfortunately, because of the person that's currently in the White House, like, there has been a permission structure that has been created with him. And while he may be Teflon Don in so many ways, some of these other people need to get checked immediately. They need to be checked. They need to be shut down. And when you remain silent, sadly enough, you're complicit. So I just want to say, like, let's stop. Like, let's stop. And I hate this for Zoe, because, you know, he should be celebrating his win. And instead, it's just like this influx of hate. Like, he still has to get through a general election, and people are out here attacking him simply because of who he is. And so I just think it's wrong. I think it's wrong on all sides. I don't appreciate hate on anybody. And maybe it's the civil rights girl in me that does not stand for that, but I'm just asking that we stop this when we see it immediately, and we shut people down. All right. So that's number one. So number two, talking about why I don't know what I'm about to do. So we finished votes today. This was a 5-day voting week, which we normally don't take. We normally vote 4 days, but we voted Monday through Friday. We finished this morning, and we are supposed to go home. But obviously, the trashy bill that came out of the House that only passed by one vote, that bill then was sent to the Senate. The Senate decided that they were going to do their business on the bill. And, you know, I am very nervous about this country when, you know, our last line of defense is the parliamentarian in the Senate. But thank God for her. And thank God that she has decided that she's just there to do her job. And so the parliamentarians shut down a lot of the worst parts of this bill. Now, the bill is still bad, but like, for them, it's not bad enough, right? So there was a deadline that had been imposed by Donald Trump of 4th of July to get this done. This was just in his own head. He just felt like this is when the deadline should be. There is no real deadline like that, but this is what he wanted. It's my understanding that he's starting to back off that deadline a little bit, because now they're trying to figure out how they can get around the parliamentarian and make this bill as bad as he wants it to be. So we have been told that we most likely will come back at the earliest on Monday to DC to basically vote on whatever the Senate sent over to us. Now it's all up in the air. So I have no idea. So I don't know. I have no idea. So that's that part. Because of what all we're seeing, I told y'all the other day that they are trying to redistrict in the state of Texas. This is a very real thing. I'm probably about to do a video for my digital team to ask for donations, because we're going to need to get my war chest up. That is for sure. Because Trump is nervous that he's going to lose the House in the midterms. We know that they cheated to get the House this time by redoing the maps in North Carolina. And when they did that, that gave them 3 seats. And when they got those 3 seats, that's exactly the majority that they ended up getting. So if we would have had those 3 seats, we would have had the House, and we could have been stopping stuff already. So he wants 5 seats out of Texas. We only have 13 Dems as it is. So I'm not really sure where all that's going, but they have called the legislature back in for July 15th. And it's not currently on the call of the House yet, but the governor can add the redistricting onto the call. We actually have to file for re-election starting in November. So there are certain deadlines that they have to do, because you have to know like where you're running before you file for re-election. So they have to get it done kind of swiftly if they're going to do it, because Texas does have one of those early primaries. But they're not only doing it in Texas, they're doing it in Ohio. So those are the 2 states that they are trying to gerrymander even further so that he does not lose the House. But there are Republicans that are truly growing weary. So we were told, or there's news that's come out about 2 Republicans, in addition to this one who said as soon as we got through reconciliation, he was dropping out, and he's leaving the House. We also have the one in Nebraska, which I actually went to Nebraska campaigning, trying to get him out of that seat. It's a seat that Joe Biden won, as well as Kamala Harris ended up winning it too. But unfortunately, we were not able to take it in the House. He was able to squeak by. That's Don Bacon. So he's leaving. So it's going to be an open seat. So hopefully we can finally win this seat. Obviously, he's not really feeling it. And he knows that these votes that he's about to take are going to only hurt the people that he serves and allegedly, represents. It doesn't feel like representation when your representatives are like coming for your throat. So that's number one. And then another one that I actually, anyway, I won't say that part. But long story short, another one, Dusty, has decided that he's just gonna leave too, and he gonna run for governor. So I mean, like, Republicans are like fleeing. They're gonna take these bad votes though, and then they gonna flee and hope that nobody paid attention or that close of attention or something, hoping that there's maybe not anybody popular enough or known enough or something for the positions maybe that they're going to run for. But they are about to take these votes that are going to harm their districts. So okay, so I'm gonna see if y'all got any questions. I'm sure y'all saw, I feel like with what happened with the Supreme Court, it was only timely that we had a hearing about visas, and I was able to educate everybody on the Einstein visa. We got lots of different types of visas, but I was happy to dig into the Einstein visas. And it will be interesting to see if there are any groups that come together that try to go to courts over birthright citizenship, if there are any lower courts that decide that they will side with this illegal executive order, this unconstitutional executive order. It'll be interesting if any groups then make a push for, say, the president to have his own fair share of familial issues, since, there are people that were born to non-citizens on one side. But we will see. Why are congressmen and women voting against the best interests of their constituents? Because they don't care. I mean, it's very simple. They don't care about their constituents. I mean, to have Mitch McConnell come out and have the audacity to say, oh, yeah, we're about to cut their Medicaid, but they'll get over it. I'm guessing when they did, they will. I mean, because you over here trying to kill them. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, other than they're cowards and they don't want to tell Donald Trump no. That is the definition of like our democracy failing. Because when I show up, regardless of what anybody else tells me, I am supposed to vote in a way that I believe is consistent for my district. And that is what I try to do every single day. We love you in Philly. Keep fighting for what you believe in. I love you too, Philly. Philly felt like it was another home of mine during the campaign. I can't tell y'all how many times I was in Pennsylvania as a whole, but definitely spent a lot of time in Philly. So that's that. Let's see what else. I do appreciate that y'all are paying attention. Much love to each and every one of y'all that are trying to keep up with all of this. Oh, the Florida postponing of elections. I haven't dug into this, but I need to, because I'm very curious about what they're doing. I will tell you that, there are those that are arguing that they are trying to lay the foundation for doing something similar on the federal level. But what we should be doing is very similarly, like working on a defensive strategy, if that is the case, so that we know what steps to take immediately to prevent that. All voting should be done anonymously, so Trump doesn't know who voted yes or no. I hear you, but honestly, we're supposed to be able to have our votes kind of show up because it's important for our districts to know how we voted. So if people keep putting their reps back into office, even though they know that they are voting against their own interests, then that's kind of on them. But it is important for us and whatever candidates are running against them, if we feel very strongly about some of the votes that they've taken, it's important for us to make sure that those people are, it's important for us to make sure that those people are informed. All right. This is the question that people have been asking. Why did some Dems vote against impeachment? Okay. This is probably a question that nobody has wanted me to answer, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it because I believe y'all deserve answers and the truth. So let me break this down. Any member is allowed to bring what we call a privileged motion to the floor. There are certain things that are privileged. That means you don't have to wait on the Speaker of the House to bring them up or anything like that, right? So you can force something to the floor for a vote. Things like censoring someone, things like expelling someone from Congress, as well as impeachment. So what we saw was my colleague from Texas, Al Green, decided that he was going to bring the impeachment resolution to the floor. Now, he decided that he wanted to focus that impeachment resolution on what Donald Trump did as it relates to dropping the bombs in Iran. Now, there are those that disagreed with going forward on impeachment on that basis because we hadn't even had a briefing to know what all was what. And again, we just had our briefing first thing this morning. But that was the only thing that was included. It was all about the war, okay? Or whatever you want to call it. It was about Iran. There are people that felt like there are more things that should be on the table. And then there are those that understand the process. And so they're focused kind of on process, right? And realities. So number one, were we ever going to have the votes to impeach him? No. So some people are just like, I'm not taking that vote because we're going to lose it. And they feel like it would do more harm. And we ultimately never voted on impeachment. I do want to clarify that too. We voted on a motion to table the impeachment. So basically, if you table something, then you can't debate. So if you saw recently where I was trying to get them to bring Elon into the DOJ subcommittee, I did a subpoena, or I did a motion to subpoena Elon. This was the third time Democrats have tried to subpoena him. And Republicans have then done a motion to table it so that we can't even debate it because they don't want to explain why it is that they don't want to. They could always vote it down, right? But when you do a motion to table, it stops the ability to debate. And so for me, I thought that debating the issue would be fine. Now, ultimately, we didn't have the votes to impeach him, but making them go on record and explaining why it is that they're standing by their man and trying to like defend the indefensible, for me, I was like, y'all go ahead. Y'all just go ahead and defend it, right? But ultimately, when you think of an impeachment, you should think of an impeachment as an indictment, okay? And so we typically don't just indict somebody. What we do is we normally go through an investigation. So normally if somebody gets in trouble, what happens is there's an investigation. You go, you get the documentation, you get, you get whatever records you can get, whether they are phone records, whether it is witnesses, like you go and you gather evidence first. So normally you would gather the evidence. That evidence would be gathered through oversight for sure. Judiciary a lot of times plays a role in it as well, but oversight for sure. So as you saw last cycle, they did what they called an impeachment inquiry. And so basically that's like inquiring as to whether or not there is evidence for an impeachment, okay? So you should go through, do your evidence collection, that kind of stuff. And then if it comes out of committee, like if you decide to put it to a vote in committee, then you put it to a vote in committee, and then the committee says, after seeing the evidence, just like a grand jury, we now are going to go ahead and say that there's enough evidence to move forward. It would then come out of committee, and then it would technically go to the floor based upon the recommendation and the vote of the evidence that they have seen in the committee or committees of jurisdiction. Then it would go to the floor for a vote. If the floor as a whole votes in a simple majority for impeachment, then that begins the trial process, because now he's technically under an indictment, okay? Then it has to go to the Senate, where the Senate basically is the jury. And the attorneys that try the case come from the House. So they go and they've got all their evidence, and they're pulling up and they're trying the case to the jury, which is the Senate. And then the Senate has to convict. In order to convict, has to do 2/3 of the Senate. All right. So he was definitely impeached twice and not convicted. So therefore he was not removed from office. So I can't tell you all the reasons that people did what they did. I can only do what I need to do, which is explain to y'all kind of how the process works. And I know that there are those that are definitely concerned about process. But we didn't have the votes anyway. So to me, yeah, I voted the way I voted, and I'm fine with the way I voted. I'll just say it that way. So I hope that answers that, because I know that y'all have been asking that, and I don't think anybody's answered it. So that's just me being 1,000. So yeah, let's see. All right, I'm gonna take one more question. Let me see what y'all saying. What is this? Oh, there's some haters online, y'all. Sorry. I'm trying to read. Okay, so there was a question about who we can subpoena. We can't subpoena nobody, because we're in the minority. So we need to be in the majority, and definitely the majority in the oversight committee. And then once we're there, then we can send out subpoenas. We have very wide latitude as it relates to our subpoena power, not only of individuals, but of documents once we're in the majority. So when you watch the January 6th commission, like that would not have taken place if the Democrats were not in power. They were able to bring in people and force them to come and testify under oath who normally probably would not have been willing to participate in the proceedings, as well as they potentially would have been precluded. They potentially would have been told, don't go. And so definitely having subpoena power is one of the most important things that we can have in a majority, especially one that is going to fight against this out of control illegal regime that is currently over our government. So yeah, like it's the most important thing right now, besides the fact that we would also be able to stop any of the ridiculous bills that we would decide what actually hits the floor. So if anything hits the floor, it's only because the Democratic Speaker of the House would allow it to come to the floor. So we never would have had to vote on this bill that only passed with one vote out of the House. It never would have made it to the floor. So there's a lot of defense for us to play if we are able to take back the House. And he knows that, and that is why he has decided that he wants to cheat his way through this. And for those of you that don't understand gerrymandering, I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'm going to jump off. So gerrymandering is this idea that, like, you end up with representation based upon kind of like the makeup of the state, right? Well, that's what it's supposed to be. Gerrymandering is like, let me draw all the crooked lines I can draw just so that I can hopefully give myself an advantage. That may be by diluting the voices of people of color, which, as it relates to the Voting Rights Act, we only have really Section 2 that we can rely upon right now. That is why Alabama was given an additional seat, is because based upon the African American population in the state of Alabama, they did not have enough opportunities for Black people to actually elect their representation. So we were able to pick up a second seat. Same thing happened in Louisiana. So we were able to pick up a second seat. And then I have a Section 2 seat in Texas. So not everybody has one, but it is supposed to be protected, as my seat is a seat in which African Americans are supposed to be the ones that decide who their elected representation is. And that just comes down to, like, it's more than just color, but it is like the big factor, because they love to dilute minority voices. But like, if you think about, not that any one minority community is a monolith, but there are certain things that like they share in common, right? And so you want to make sure that they are able to pick their representation. And really, the way that lines are supposed to be is lines are supposed to be what we call consistent with communities of common interest. So if for some reason you live in, say, Dallas ISD, as an example, it wouldn't make sense to have people that are in Dallas ISD now somehow having representation that's also people in like Fort Worth ISD. Like Fort Worth and Dallas are not the same, right? And the challenges and what it is that they need are not the same. So like, you look at what school districts do these people attend? Are they, what school districts are they in? You look at things like what churches they may attend. You look at neighborhoods. So I have a number of freedmen's towns like in my district. And so they may be separate freedmen's towns, but they are freedmen's towns, which means that they have like a general kind of history that is very similar. You look at like who represents them on like the state and the city and the county level. You look at all these things to kind of figure out like what is it that kind of brings these people together, so that when members are representing their district, it really is congruent. Like it makes sense. Like it's like, oh, everybody is kind of on the same page. Like these people have like similar plights, and these people are looking for like similar solutions. It doesn't make sense, say, to have like South Dallas, which I represent, somehow be linked in with like South Texas. Like South Texas and South Dallas are not the same, right? But we do have some crazy lines that go all the way from like urban, inner city, all the way down to the border. They don't have the same issues. So it's tough. So we'll see what they ultimately do. But Texas is a majority minority state. We definitely don't have enough seats that are chosen by minority groups in general. In addition to that, they have 25 Republicans in office, and we have 13 as it relates to like our makeup. But when you look at the percentage of the state that Republicans are typically winning on a statewide, the percentages don't add up. So they continue to play us. So even though people may feel a way about Democrats and that kind of stuff, there's certain things that it's like they're gerrymandering, and they're doing it with the approval of the courts. So they are able to basically have like a louder voice than they should in these states on the federal level, because those percentages don't add up. And if they try to take away more Democratic seats, then it's going to further dilute like the actual voices of Texas. So that's that. So I'm going to jump off. Everyone, enjoy your Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. I'm on call, so I don't know what's going to happen. But it's all good, because the people of Texas 30 sent me here to serve, and I do it the best I can. All right. Bye.